Welcome to another episode of Krazy Knights, the Australian Kiss podcast. I'm one of your Krazy Knights co-hosts, Jamie McNichol, and it's a beautiful day here on a Sunday. Saturday was yesterday, so Sunday afternoon. It's a great, warm weather, springtime. I've got hay fever, and yeah. But no, joining me, as always, is my other co-host, David Fowler. How you going, David?
Yeah, good, thanks, Jamie. It's a great day here today, actually.
Yeah, it's been absolutely beautiful weather, consistent now, and the winter season has gone. Yep. I've got hay fever, as I always do when the springtime comes around. All the new flowers and grass growing and that. So, yeah, you sound like a chipmunk, so it's all good. But no, David, I thought we'd just get straight into the house chores for Krazy Knights.
Yep, for sure.
We want to say thank you to everyone that has listened to our episodes. The last 4 episodes that we've done has averaged 500 views, and it's just been awesome since we first started. We were lucky to get 100 views when we first started, but this is week 17, and we're 15 numbers off 500 likes on our Facebook page. That's Krazy Knights, the Australian Kiss podcast. We're almost hitting 500. We want to do a milestone. If we can hit that by the end of the month, the 500, that lucky person will get a special gift from both David and I for Krazy Knights, and we want to say thank you to all the people that have supported us since we first started, and commenting, liked us, even sharing their inside stories as well. We had been requested on our Facebook page, David, yesterday to do an episode, and I think you saw that on our wall post.
I did. We'll do that at a later stage,
Yep, we'll do that. Mm-hmm. So we want to thank that person just now for that great request that we want to do. Also, go over to our YouTube channel. We've got 46 subscribers now, David. Mm-hmm. Over 300-something views since we first started with all the episodes. That's another great rally that's going there too. They're jumping on board. They're liking what we do.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone who's liking our page and watching all the episodes and getting something out of it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for everyone of that. And also, I'd like to mention our website, Podbean, at Krazy Knights at Podbean. Please go there. We are going to put all the other episodes up. It's just that we hit our monthly data limit, so we're going to pay out another bill. That's got to put our other 500 or so megabytes we can put up, so we're going to do that and put the other episodes up. I have put a bit of a throwback Thursday, David. I put up an earlier episode on our Facebook wall, so fans that haven't seen our earlier episodes, we can just drag them out of our catalogue off YouTube and put them on our wall. So I started that this week, so anyone wants to see our early episodes, please, they're going to be up there on our wall, including our weekly episodes. So you get 2, basically. So that's another new things that we're going to be starting. Also, we've got 2 new things that we have lined up. We want to thank podnet.com, the podcast directory, for picking us up last week. That's going to be distributed around Australia and also overseas. We've got 3 or 4 episodes currently up there, plus a couple of older episodes. Please go to that. Look us up at Krazy Knights. You'll see us in the directory, and just like us, and also share it with your friends. Also, Spreaker.com has picked us up as well. We are going to do a live broadcast probably later this month. Well, I'm trying things out with that. I'm just trying to get some bit of background knowledge of that. It's a new thing that just came up. So we are going to try it out, and we are going to go live. So we are going to let the fans know what time they need to be up in America, England, overseas as well, and also the time difference here in Australia due to our daylight savings. So, yeah, David, that's another thing that we're going to be doing. Do a live episode now and again using that.
Yeah, that'll be good.
That'll be good. So, yeah, I think we get all those out of the way at the start, and, thank everyone that jumped on board, and it's awesome. But David,
Yep.
I think it's time to do a drum roll and introduce this awesome guest. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned should Kiss do a remastered set again and continue on, probably up to Monster. You were saying, David, to go up to Psycho Circus.
Mm-hmm. I did, yep.
So I dug deep, and I said, okay, why don't we actually talk to the guy that actually brought the remastered edition set out in the 90s.
Around about 98?
Yeah, 98, 97, 98,
yep.
Around there. And I said, why don't we go down a little bit deeper and let's go into the catalogue a bit of people that work with Kiss or done something for Kiss. And I said, why don't we get Robert B. Conte to join us, David? And we do have this awesome person all the way from New York, America. He's just done a Comic-Con convention as we speak. And we want to welcome Robert to join the Krazy Knights at the round table. How you going, Robert?
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Good,
thanks. Yourself?
Good. Well, thank you for inviting me to be on the show, and I'm quite flattered, and, I'm here to answer all of your questions.
Yeah, well, like I said, Robert, it's just a pleasure to having you join us, and also David's here is also flattered as well.
Yep.
I mean, who would have thought David here 3 months ago is going to be talking to one of the guys that got together with Kiss and said, let's do a remastered set.
That's right.
And here we are, and we're just flattered as well, and this all goes back to the Kiss fans. But before we get into that topic of the remastered, I just want to say, how did the Comic-Con convention go for you today at New York?
Well, this weekend, the show started on this past Thursday, and it's going through tomorrow. And I've been in the comic book business in one aspect or another for almost 28 years. And this weekend, I'm promoting a reality show I'm working on called Rebuilding Robert, which is a show essentially about myself going through the trials and tribulations of experiencing, high highs and low lows throughout, an average person's life. It's amazing to have had such great experiences as working with, celebrities such as Kiss, but I've also been through a lot of, terrible experiences as well. And it's interesting to see what motivates a person to get themselves out of, any sort of, funk, whether it be financial funk or physical, emotional. There's things that drive me to try to do better in my life. And, I've been very blessed with a lot of the experiences I've had. But I want more. I'm hungry, you see. So, never take no for an answer. Perseverance is a very powerful tool, my friends. So,
yeah,
definitely.
We were very lucky. We passed out, a couple of hundred of promotional T-shirts this weekend. We have a website already called rebuildingrobert.com. And for any Kiss fan that clicks on that and likes it, you're going to get a really nice special surprise when it's ready. And, we'll see. This time next year, we'll be talking about the show, hopefully.
Yeah,
definitely.
And we have Comic-Con down here in Australia. We had one early this year. We had William Shatner from Star Trek. We had Richard Dean Anderson. We had all those type of people, the Sci-Fi comic book stuff. They all come to Australia now and again. You're more than welcome to come down for that, Robert, if you want to do it. You're more than welcome.
I tell you, I love the idea of being able to travel for a comic convention. For many years, San Diego Comic-Con was considered like the mecca of comic book shows in the country. But I have to tell you, this New York Comic-Con just keeps getting larger and larger. And I'm dying to see what the other, large conventions are throughout the world. So, you know what? I may take you up on that offer. Thank you.
No worries.
I believe Ace and Richie Scarlett were there as well, I've heard.
Oh, nice.
I just read that something that they were going to make an appearance at Comic-Con or something to do some signing or something, but...
Yeah, I think that was a horror one.
Oh,
I don't know if
sorry.
I don't think... Yeah, that was a horror one.
Okay.
I don't think it was actually a comic one. That was a horror one.
Oh, right. Yep.
That's the same as Peter Criss. He's doing another monster type of Comic-Con.
Yep.
Two different things. We know David, you and I know exactly what's going down in between Ace and Peter.
Yep.
That just won't be in the same room together. They had a massive fallout early this year, but that's not for us. It's only from what the sources have told us. And all credit for Ace and Peter. If it wasn't for them two, Kiss wouldn't be here. But unfortunately, they chose not to do certain things. They're entitled to do that. So if they want to sign at different conventions, let them do that.
Yep.
They make them money.
Yeah.
They do that. But let's focus on the positives,
Yep.
shall we?
Exactly.
Back in 98, well, not 98, Robert, but before that, you were approached by Kiss about the Remastered edition. I'd like to ask you, how did all that came for you firsthand before they even announced it to yourself?
Well, it's interesting. I wouldn't say that the band approached me about the remasters. I would say I was pretty much begging them to let me do the remaster. And every opportunity I possibly could. What had happened? The very first, when I was still a teenager, I was only about 19 years old. I had written a comic book that was published by Rock and Roll Comics, and it was written about Kiss. It was Rock and Roll Comics #9, and it came out in either December of '89 or January of 1990. And, I did this out of labor of love for the band. I had been a fan for many, many years. And, the Kiss machine got wind that we did this black and white, unauthorized comic book. And, they weren't coming after us, but, they acknowledged that they knew about it. And, later on, Kiss had actually worked with Revolutionary Comics, the publisher of that book, on the Kiss prehistory comics, and then a couple of Hard Rock comic specials, as I remember. But I had introduced myself to Kiss's then manager, a fellow by the name of Larry Mazer, and he preceded Doc McGee. And I told him, who I was, and I was very interested in working with the band on an official level. And he was kind enough to invite me to the Ritz show that preceded the release of Revenge. And all of a sudden I found myself on the side of the stage, actually standing next to Gene's mother, Florence, and seeing from Gene's point of view on the stage, a concert that I just thought was absolutely amazing. If I'm correct, it was the first time that Unholy and Take It Off were performed live in front of a crowd. And after the show, after the show, Larry and another fellow by the name of Nick Karras, who I believe was VP of marketing, he was involved with Polygram on some level. They had introduced me to Gene and Paul, and I showed him my comic book and got a picture of Gene with me holding the comic book, and he goes sarcastically, "My, what an original idea." And he walked away. And most people know that Kiss had comic books published in the late '70s, so it was a little jab at me for that. I kind of said, okay, well, at first you don't succeed, try again. After Alive 3 was released, Kiss did a signing at Tower Records in Carl Place on Long Island. And I had contacted Larry Mazer's office and requested that I get another 5 minutes with the band if all possible. So he said, no guarantees, but come down. So I did. And after the signing was over, I had handed Gene a report that was about 50 pages long. It might have been a little bit more than that, of all the mistakes that were in the current catalog as is. Basically, after Casablanca was taken over by Polygram, the way the catalog was treated, or a better term, mistreated, was just something that it totally blew my mind. I mean, I was buying the Kiss records from when the Casablanca originals were still available on the market, and then when these Polygram reissues started coming out, I mean, there was just for instance, Dynasty, they stopped including the poster and the order forms for the merchandise, the special graphic that was on the vinyl. just became the standard Casablanca logo. Various things like that were very annoying. Like the Hard in Hell album cover didn't have that silver finish on it anymore. It was all these different things where it just seemed like the quality control just went downhill,
Mm-hmm.
But the straw that broke the camel's back was I had purchased a copy of the first Kiss album, a brand new edition, that was released with the Polygram logo on it, next to the Casablanca logo. And lo and behold, the second track, Nothing to Lose, wasn't the original studio version. It was a version taken from Alive. Could you imagine that? You're sitting there listening to Strutter, then all of a sudden, like, the Alive version of Nothing to Lose fades in. You're like, what in the world? And I remember calling Polygram, Mercury Polygram, the next day, and they passed me off to person A, person B, person C, and eventually they said to me, well, you know what? This is really a problem with Sterling Sound. You need to call them and talk to a guy named Ted Jensen. And I said, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So imagine having to go through all that rigmarole, finally getting in touch with Ted Jensen. Of course, he didn't want to hear anything about it, unfortunately. But Gene, to his credit, took my report quite seriously, and he was just dumbfounded that there were just so many mistakes in all the albums up to that point. So he had contacted me a little later and offered me an opportunity to work with Tommy Thayer on the Unplugged Kiss Convention tour. And that was kind of kind of an informal first official work I had with the band. That was pretty exciting.
But you mentioned the comic book in the 70s. I was just recently in a comic book 2 days ago, and they were saying something about the red ink was accidentally passed on to another print, another comic book. It wasn't even a Kiss comic book. This is he's a Kiss fan himself, this guy that owns the comic book shop down here in Adelaide. He was saying something about the vial. After they had the photo taken of them pouring their blood into the red ink, that print plant, or that print, went to, not only did it was made for the 77 Marvel comic book, but it also created another comic book. Maybe that's a rumor, we don't know. I will investigate it, David.
Yep.
About that, but this is something that I just found out recently, that the red paint, or the red blood, vial blood, wasn't actually in the Marvel comic book. It was in another comic book that did a absolute malfunction.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So theoretically, the Archie comic that came out that month might have the blood in it instead.
Yeah, the Kiss blood.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and this only came out on Friday. I only got told this just 2 days ago at the comic book store. He's a massive Kiss fan himself, and I have found one 77 Marvel comic book I am going to get. I have found one, and yeah, it may not exactly have the red blood in it, even though it says it, but may not. Who knows?
I have to tell you, when I look back at that footage of each member pouring one vial of blood into the red ink, I said to myself, the DNA has to be so spread out over millions of copies. I'm not even quite sure you could extract any DNA out of any comic book.
No, I don't think you'd be able to.
But
so when the technology gets so good we can actually start to clone people, then you can, clone Gene's DNA out of the comic book and make your very own Gene Simmons. Look at that.
Maybe
about DNA.
Maybe then Kiss would be able to live on forever then if you could clone them.
Well, don't forget, you'll have to pay a licensing fee for the cloning rights, so you got to keep that in mind.
Oh, that's right.
Before we continue on, David, talk about getting a clone from Gene. Do you see that chewing gum that was put up on eBay just recently from England?
It's got some.
What in the world would you pay over $200,000 just for a piece of chewing gum?
But
they got his DNA. I know, I can understand that, but chewing gum.
But how
It
do
means
you authenticate that it was actually Gene chewing the gum? That's the question.
Exactly.
That's it. That's it. And I mean, it's not like you're walking past with a paper cup in your hand. Say, hey, Gene, you want to pit in this cup for me, please? Yeah, I got his DNA. I'll sell it on eBay. I mean, I'm not going to go underneath every table that I put my chewing gum on at high school and say, here, I got my DNA here, and I'm going to rip that off. But no.
Well,
anyway.
Back to the remasters. Was there, because it only went up to Krazy Knights, was there any talk of it remastering, say, Revenge, Alive 3 and all that at the time, or was it just only going to go up to that catalogue, that part of the catalogue?
Well,
did it actually go up to Krazy Knights, or did it go up to Hot in the Shade?
Or Krazy Knights. I've only got it up, because I bought them all, and they only went up to Krazy Knights as far as I know.
Well, Krazy Knights was the last one that was released, but I had actually written essays, and we had actually done some of the pre-production on Smashes, Thrashes, and Hot in the Shade.
Okay.
Hot in the Shade, I was very displeased with the sound of the CD version of that, and I was really I was disappointed when they decided not to do the next round, because the Hot in the Shade, cassette and the vinyl sound so much better than the CD. So I had hoped they would remaster it, but they ultimately decided not to. There are a lot of factors at that point as to why they decided not to continue, but the essays were done up through Hot in the Shade. We had actually, if you look at the spine of Kiss Revenge, you'll see that it was just standard typeface instead of using the Kiss logo on the spine, which is the tradition. We had actually corrected that. And unfortunately, they decided not to move forward with it. So most of the world, as far as I know, all the remasters up through Krazy Knights were available, but work was done on the rest up to that point, but nothing was moved forward. There was also talk at one point of re-releasing Alive 3 with Take It Off incorporated into the American version, but that didn't happen either.
Because there's a new re-edition.
Was there any, with the Alive 3, was there any talk of actually remastering it as the double album that it should have been?
Well, it's funny, when I saw the master tapes, I saw all the extra songs that were on there, and I was a little surprised they decided to release it without all the songs that were mastered for the album. There was talk of doing a limited edition version with all the tracks. At the time, there was a company called H&H Distribution that were doing limited edition vinyls of some of the Kiss records. And they did the glow-in-the-dark Creatures of the Night, I remember. And they did some sort of, I think it was a multicolored version of Alive 3. You could get like a yellow copy or an orange copy. The years go by, I don't remember these things as well as I used to. But there was definitely talks. I was in one of the meetings when they were trying to get the rights to release the entire concert on vinyl, and it didn't work out. But one thing I'll tell you, we had actually did a remaster and redesign of the originals. The original 3 record set that came out in the 70s. And if you look at the CDs with the catalog numbers, you'll notice between Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over, a digit is skipped. And the reason for that is because we had actually put together the remaster for the originals that came with the booklet and a couple other little great tchotchkes. They decided at the time not to move forward with it, and later repackaged it as a Kiss Chronicles set, which was basically just the 3 CDs with the standard booklets in a tall type case. But we definitely repackaged the originals for a CD release, and unfortunately they decided not to do it.
Well, I was just going to go on to that. How limited were you to use the packaging for the remasters? Like, how they had the gatefold for certain vinyls when they brought it out under Casablanca. You had a different gatefold for the Elder. You had the hand on the CD, or not the CD, the vinyl itself.
Well,
Even saying that, you put a little bit of a story in the booklet cover of all the albums that came out with the remastered set. But I just want to go into how limited were you not to make a bigger package than what it already is? If there's something that you could have added yourself?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Originally, when the very first remasters that we went into Sterling Sound and did were Alive 1 and Alive 2. And there was talk at the time about doing a ultimate box of Alive 1 and Alive 2 that was going to have a ton of extra stuff in it. And at the same time, we were working on the album You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best. That was actually the very first Kiss record I contributed to. And what the original concept of You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best versus what actually came out is a totally different animal. And that's a whole hour in itself, unfortunately. I won't get on that one because that'll keep us going for a while. But the original proposal to do the remasters was not only to include the essays and to make the record sound as better than what they had on CD before, and to bring back the original graphics, but the original idea was to actually add in a separate booklet with the lyrics, all the lyrics, and a bunch of different photographs from all the photographers that were around at during a particular album session. Let me give you an example. With the first Kiss record, we had been in touch with Joel Brodsky's studio. That was the fella who shot the first album cover. We knew there were tons of outtakes from that session, not only as a group but individuals. And he didn't have much in his possession. He claimed that All Coin Management had a lot of that stuff, and then it was very difficult to get our hands on some of it. We had talked to some of the other photographers like Bob Gruen and Waring Abbott about using some of their imagery in the remastered editions. And unfortunately, before you know it, the budget of these things just skyrocketed through the roof. Now, you wanted the best, you got the best, didn't do as well commercially as Mercury had hoped it would. So the idea of doing these, super deluxe packaged versions of the remasters didn't see the light of day. Fortunately, I have these on an archive somewhere. We did design Kiss, Hotter Than Hell, and Dressed to Kill as if they were going to be bonus packs, deluxe bonus packs that had included a lot of the original photography of that particular era, like some of the outtakes. For instance, like Dressed to Kill, some of the outtakes on West 23rd Street, that Bob Gruen shot with Higher Than Hell, a lot of the extra stuff that Norman Seeff shot. I had this whole big paragraph about, half of Ace's face only being painted because of the car accident, and then, how there was subsequent photos, with his face totally made up. I mean, it was really what I had hoped to have been, the ultimate remasters for the ultimate Kiss connoisseur. But the record company didn't want to put that kind of money into something that they weren't sure they'd see a return on. Of course, we as Kiss fans know that stuff would have sold immediately, but it was a difficult sell, so it didn't happen.
It's just like everything Kiss brought out. Very limited stuff. Once it goes, it goes.
It was my belief if we did 1,000 or 2,500 of each of those remasters as bonus deluxe packs with not only were we going to include the photos and the liner notes. There was a Kiss licensee at the time called Cornerstone Communications that did the Kiss cards, the trading cards, and I had written those trading cards, and we were going to do a special subset for the remasters. And again, it's just the record company didn't want to spend the money on all these things. They looked at the numbers of You Wanted the Best, and they said, well, this is a new release, and if it's only doing this, we don't have the confidence that doing these ultra packaged versions of these albums are going to move anywhere, and we don't want to spend the extra money. So it was unfortunately, it was quite disheartening. But you have to move forward, and that's what happened.
There's a question I want to ask, just as a hypothetical question here, Robert.
Okay.
Is that due to the fact they were putting more effort into the Psycho Circus album rather than focusing on the remasters?
No. Psycho Circus happened well after we were complete with the remasters. Although the remasters weren't released altogether, they were all done within, if I remember correctly, I'd say within 3 to 4 months. Everything from Kiss through Krazy Knights was complete. It's just that the marketing, they broke them up and issued them at certain points. So by the time I was done working on the remasters, I had moved on to that album, Greatest Kiss. And then after that, Psycho Circus came later. So the production of Psycho Circus, it didn't influence what happened with the remasters.
You did also just mention that you were going to put bonus tracks on the remastered. Some people ask, why isn't there any remastered demos or bonus tracks? You were focused on getting that on, weren't you?
Well, it was interesting. When I was in the Polygram Vault out in New Jersey, when we were going through all the Kiss tapes, there were some of the Kiss tapes weren't cataloged properly, so there were things that were missing that we had to go out and find. But during the locating these tapes, we found some really amazing stuff, which I was in touch with Gene and Paul regularly on what we found, and when we did find things, 9 times out of 10 they wanted me to FedEx the tapes to Los Angeles, and then I had to get permission from Mercury to do that. So there were things that were found that to this day still have not been released, and I'm hoping at one point they will be released. I was very pleased. One of the things we found back in '96, early '97, was the 45 RPM, the singles versions of some of these songs, like Nothing to Lose and Detroit Rock City, which has the car crash in the middle of the song instead of the end. We had found those master tapes, and we sent them off. I mean, it took years for it to happen, but I was very happy that that Kiss singles box set came out last year, because that's kind of how I envisioned the remasters originally. I wanted the first the first 4 or 5 Kiss albums to have the blue label, and the ones that have, as they were released originally. And we didn't get to see that with the remasters, but I was very happy to see that they did it with the singles box set.
So, Dave, you got a couple more questions. I've got to have a drink of my water here for my hay fever, so you just ask a question.
So, exactly from the time you were hired, how long did you actually work with the band?
Well, I was, let's see, I'd say when the very first Kiss convention in 1995, Gene had announced that I was hired as the catalog consultant for the remasters. Mm-hmm. And then we had worked on them in 96, and they started coming out, I believe, late 96, 97. Mm-hmm. But those weren't the only things I worked on. That was my primary responsibility. But I also had helped package some of the Kiss merchandise that came out at the time. I had also published Barry Levine's The Kiss Years book. I also helped consult for some of the Kiss licensees on some of the products they were doing. It was a pretty busy year for me, pretty busy couple of years actually, and it was some of the funnest times of my life.
What was interesting around the time of the remasters when they came out here in Australia? Remember, Dave, the Japanese ones? It was in like a packet that had Japanese
like a
label on.
Yeah, kind of like a almost like a cardboard, so like vinyl. CD.
Yeah,
thing,
they look like sure.
Looks like little CD singles.
Yeah, those were pretty exciting. Yeah. I remember those. Yes.
I must admit, looking at some of the lyrics, being transferred from Japanese to English, and it looked like they got a bit of it wrong.
Well, it was funny because the first one I saw was Rock and Roll Over.
Yeah.
And when I pulled out the little flyer that was inside, all my liner notes were transcribed in Japanese, and it was just great to see, my words written in Japanese at the end. Robert V. Conte.
Yeah. And they didn't actually do the whole lot either, did they, Dave? They only did a certain amount
of the. I think more of the 70s album, like the first 6 albums. So
yeah, the first one I saw was Hotter Than Hell and Dynasty, and then I saw the other ones come out, and I'm saying, why has this got Japanese writing on it? And yeah, it came out at the same time as the remasters, and it was only a certain amount that was made.
I think they did Destroyer and all that as well. I think that was the one I had. And I remember reading the lyrics to God of Thunder and thinking, that doesn't sound right.
You can use them as a frisbee. That's how thin they were.
You would use them as frisbee.
No. You don't throw any kiss stuff around the house, but you know what I mean. The kids get hold of it, they can throw it around. It's like a frisbee across the room.
Those are not the ones you want to.
Robert,
those are not the ones you want to share with your little children. No,
exactly.
But Robert, I just want to know, how was it with you when you came up to the 4 solo albums? Was that easier for you, or you just had that already vision out already?
The solo albums, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting that you. The solo albums were fun to work on, but this is where some of the internal problems with Mercury were happening. We would, back then, when you design things or redesign things, you would have a low-res version of the files, to use when you just had to, show something with what's called for position only, just to show the printer, to show, your colleagues, to make sure everything's in the right spot. And then you'd have the high-res versions, which, took up a lot of, memory and were on these, zip disks or even, jazz drive disks. I mean, we're talking, 15 years ago. There were a couple of mistakes made, which I was very irritated because I didn't get to see the last round of quality control on the solo albums before they were re-released. So the Gene Simmons one, sadly, when you look at that reproduced art, that was not the high-res version of that art that was printed. It was actually the low-res version because someone forgot to update the files. And, it was stuff like that was very, very irritating. And I consider myself a meticulous control freak. So, for me to see those in print was really upsetting. Now, fortunately, some of the foreign markets had realized that the files they received were not the correct high-res version, so they fixed it before it came out. But the American ones, unfortunately, they that one and a couple of other records did not use the versions that were cleaned up and it's unfortunate that happens. But sometimes you have too many chefs in the kitchen, your soup goes stale, and that's what happened there.
And you weren't aware that some countries only had a certain album up to, like. Some went up to Krazy Knights, some went up to Creatures of the Night, some went elsewhere. Were you aware of that?
I was not aware of that until you brought it to my attention. When we created the remasters, we supplied all the major labels that had had the rights to release Kiss albums in their particular country. Everybody was supplied with the same original materials, but it was up to each label to put them out as they saw fit. So I had always understood that they eventually came out everywhere, but you've obviously you've told me obviously differently. So I'm surprised that some of those albums still have not seen the light of day in some countries.
Well, definitely here in Australia, we definitely got everything up until Krazy Knights. I've definitely got all of them. And they're all produced here in Australia. So
I was pretty sure I saw Hot in the Shade remastered, but
I haven't seen it.
Obviously,
no.
I know. Well, Robert just clarified they were going to do it, and whether it's been out there or not. If anyone has got it, I don't know if it's been released.
As far as I know, no. Believe me, if they remastered Hot in the Shade with the essay and everything, I'd like to see a copy. It's only been about 15 years.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. But here's a question. I didn't put in beforehand before the interview. All these other albums that came out, like Chikara and all that, I would love to see a remastered version. Even Killers. I think Killers was remastered, wasn't
it? Killers was actually not remastered. When we got the go ahead to remaster The Elder, including all the music that you may recall that the original American release, the tracks were in a different order than what the original intended order of the album was. They had put The Oath first. We brought back The Elder by its original intended track order. Plus, we added Escape from the Island, which wasn't on that original mix at all. So we were very happy to do that. And then we moved on to Killers, and we were told for legality issues we couldn't release Killers in the U.S. So unfortunately, the record company decided not to remaster Killers, which was too bad. I had actually pitched the idea of releasing the 4 unreleased tracks as an EP or as a mini CD to the Kiss Army as like an exclusive or something, but it didn't go through.
Yeah, we got Killers here as an export. It's from Germany, the German import. But Chikara, the one that came out in the 80s from Japan, I would have loved to have seen that remastered.
Yep.
Love to, because that is a very hard.
That's a very hard CD to get your hands on, and it's funny because I remember that was when CDs first hit it big at the bootleg CD market. Chikara was one of the more popular bootleg discs, so a lot of Kiss fans have that CD without realizing they have a bootleg version of it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was the same with the Carnival of Souls. There's a bootleg version out there, and I did have that, and then
that was the
2 years later,
a really rough mix version.
Was a real rough demo.
I've seen it. I've actually got a copy of it here, but I've got the one that they put out eventually anyway, so which is much better.
Yeah. But, Robert, I just want to ask one question. Were you a Kiss fan? You obviously were a Kiss fan, but I'd like to know, how did Kiss influence your life before you got into the work you got into?
Oh, well, Kiss, listening to Kiss music and buying the Kiss merchandise, I was the perfect age for it. I was about 8 years old when all the Kiss the original wave of Kiss merchandise hit the stores. I remember seeing the Kiss Halloween costumes, and I remember buying the Kiss Dunruss bubblegum cards. And it was really funny because I was introduced to the band not through the music first, but actually through the merchandise. Like I said, the trading cards and the comic books and things. So from an 8-year-old's perspective, it was like, hey, this is some really cool stuff, and they're a rock band too. Well, that was kind of where the majority, a lot of the Kiss fans at the time, the ones that were older, they were motivated by the music first. But I became such a devout fan that every time something was on television, I remember staying up to watch the USA Today special that came out in '82. Where they had, it was the first time I ever seen Vinnie Vincent in makeup on TV, and I remember saying to myself, "Where's Ace Frehley?" I didn't know he left.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Vinnie Vincent. I have a friend of mine here in Adelaide saying when they first brought out the Lick It Up album, he thought, "That's Ace Frehley without makeup." He turned the cover over. He said, "Oh my God, Ace Frehley changed his name to Vinnie Vincent." He's a massive Ace Frehley fan, and You know, he actually, to this day, he actually thought that Vinnie Vincent changed his name to, Ace Frehley changed his name to Vinnie Vincent. That's Vinnie Vincent, you know? Because no one, as the story goes, no one knew who Kiss looked like without the makeup.
He was living through some major denial there. He couldn't accept Ace was out of the band.
Exactly, yeah. For 20 years.
Well, I just want to jump in for this. I just found out some information last night. Apparently, that EP that Vinnie Vincent made out in '96, I think it was, he's going to. They're bringing out a T-shirt. They're redesigning the T-shirt, and also the album's going to be released in full.
Okay.
Yeah. I just found this out last night on their official page and all that. Maybe he is desperate to make some money because he stopped suing Kiss for all these times. Focus on the music. If he would have focused on the music, a lot of things would have been different. But he is what he is.
To Vinnie Vincent's credit, you know, he co-wrote or contributed to a lot of the music that really I thought was great Kiss music in the '80s. You know, "Lick It Up" is still one of my favorite records. You know, and you know he co-wrote most of that album. It's a shame when personalities conflict and you can't work for the goal, which is to make great music together. I mean, he was picked by Gene and Paul to take over, you know, to replace Ace, and I think he was at the time, you know, a great musician. And I love the first Vinnie Vincent Invasion record. You know, it's funny because a lot of people don't know that Bobby Fleischman, which was Journey's first vocalist, is the vocalist on that album. There's a lot of people still think Mark Slaughter sang on that record. It's not true. You know, but
just talking about Lick It Up, were you going to put any of the demo stuff that Vinny did for the remasters, like the Boys Wanna Rock, or even his version of Lick It Up?
I knew there were demo tapes for Lick It Up that we were trying to see if we could get rights to put extra stuff on there. Again, the decision was made earlier on not to pursue the avenue of including bonus tracks at the time. The idea for a Kiss Monster box set had actually germinated out of those discussions. I mean, there was, you know, anytime we found something that we considered rare or unique, we had sent over to the band, and some of that stuff did wind up on the box set, but there's still a lot of stuff that isn't released. But I'll tell you something that did come up. During Lick It Up's remastering, we had pitched the idea of doing a limited edition version where the front of it was going to be the photo session with Eric and Vinny in makeup, and then you would lift up the page and it would be the traditional cover everybody knew about, you know, everybody's familiar with. But you know, again, there were so many ideas that came back and forth, and a lot of that stuff were great ideas. It's just that, you know, due to various reasons, economic and so forth, they didn't happen.
Yeah. Let's go to the album before Lick It Up, Krazy Knights.
Krazy Knights came out before Lick It Up? I didn't know that.
Well, it depends what version you... I don't know. It depends what version you're getting. You got the Bruce Kulick version that came out in 84, 86, well, whatever it was.
Krazy Knights came out in 94? You know? Where was it?
Sorry, it's my hay fever. Don't worry about it. No, 84. No, I want to talk about Krazy. I don't know.
I'll pick it up.
Leave me alone. No. Questions of the night. Were you going? You only just remastered just the one with the Bruce Kulick cover.
No. The entire album was remastered to its original intended sound, and then we replaced the secondary cover with the original cover art with makeup, and that's actually one of the remasters I'm proudest of. I mean, the sound of that album is just amazing. It sounds like it was recorded yesterday. I mean, I just love playing that record, I tell you.
Well, funny you say that. It was an awesome record, but the tour, well, that's a different story.
The drums really came out on the remasters, I must say, of that album.
Let me tell you, there were some remasters that were such a delight to work on, and that one definitely sticks out in my mind just because, imagine being at a console in Sterling Sound in New York City, having that album just blast at the highest possible level you could hear it without, blowing out your eardrums. What an amazing experience, and that was the way the album was meant to be heard, and I'm glad to have been part of that. It was interesting throughout the remastering process which albums needed some minor help and ones that needed major help, and even with the preservation of the actual original tapes, the first album, the quality of the actual mastering tapes were in almost perfect condition, as if you had bought the tape yesterday, as opposed to 1973. It was it was recorded on Scotch brand tape, and like I said, almost pristine mint condition. Hotter Than Hell, on the other hand, when we opened up that box, tape flakes were all over the place. I couldn't believe it. It was mastered on an Ampex tape brand, and it was just terrible quality. The engineers had to come in and do what's called baking the tapes, which is literally putting the tape in an oven for hours to bring whatever's life is left into it out. Fortunately, everything got transferred to DAT tape, and everything's been perfectly preserved. But let me tell you, I'll never forget when they opened up that Hard in Hell box and just seeing tape flakes just fall off the base of the tape. I remember my mouth just dropped. I said, "Oh my gosh!" And fortunately, those skilled professionals over at Sterling Sound knew exactly what to do, and thank goodness they saved the record.
Well, I just want to put you in that time capsule again, Robert. And if you went back and did a remaster that you haven't done to date, which one will you do and why?
Okay, out of all the records, which one would I go back and master again? Is that the question?
Yeah, or an album that you have not done
today. An album I haven't done today. Okay, let's see. That's a good question. Oh dear. It's been a dream of mine. When we were doing a live too, some of you may know that, some fans out there may know that when the album was pressed in certain parts of the United States, Take Me and other songs were listed.
Print on the cover, yeah.
Right. Let me tell you, that was what I was hoping to do with Alive too, and unfortunately we couldn't work it out. But if I had my choice, that would have been a great thing to do, to have included those missing tracks. So I guess that would be my first choice. My other choice would have been to put out You Wanted the Best You Got, the Best Away. I thought it was going to come out, but like I said, that's a different story for another day.
The album that I would pull, the album that's been out, that to redo again, it had to be Carnival of Souls. I mean, I know that was a rush job because they were mainly trying to focus on the reunion tour and whatnot, and to my knowledge, it wasn't completed the way they wanted to do. They just used what it was, and according to Eric Singer, the drum tracks were turned down on Carnival of Souls. It's heavy, but the original tracks for it was a lot heavier than what it originally came onto the disc. I would love to do a brief polish of that as well.
I'm glad you brought that album up. I remember particularly going into Mercury Records and basically sitting in the conference room with a few people, and they played Carnival of Souls from beginning to end, and some of the tracks were in different order, but I remember distinctly listening to this record, being all excited for it, saying, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be great when it hits the market," and being told, "Well, actually, we're not going to release it because this is not the old Kiss, this is the new Kiss, and they want it on the shelf for now." And I remember thinking that was a mistake, because it would have been, even though the lineup wasn't the same, to have put out that record in 1996 or 97 when it was done. I thought that record would have been more commercially successful. I really did, especially with the album art they had originally intended, which didn't have the band on the cover. It was like this. It was like this fiery skull character. So it wouldn't have. I think Kiss fans that were interested in the reunion tour who may have picked up the record, I mean, it may have caused a little confusion, but I think that record came out much later than it should have, and it didn't do as well because of it.
Yeah. Just one question, and I'll pass it today before we wrap it up. With the synchronizers for Unity and Unmasked, were you... That's another hypothetical question. Were you thinking about taking those disco-ish feel out of it, or do you just want to keep the original feels the way it was? Like, what I mean by that, to polish the album up, were you going to take anything away from the album to put something new in, or just left it?
Oh, no. What the intent of doing a remastered version of an album is basically to take what was done and, take the final mix that was intended by the producer and approved by the band and the label, and release it that way. So it was really just a difference of sound quality that was what we were trying to improve. We weren't trying to remix the albums at all. That's a very different thing. What would have been great would have been to have heard, again, to have a bonus disc or maybe put 2 or 3 bonus tracks at the end of each record, showing different, listening different mixes or so on. That wasn't in the plan at the time. I recently heard there was talk about, remastering and repackaging some of these albums again, which would be interesting. And I would hope if they do that they certainly include some bonus material, some demo material, because a lot of that stuff's been floating out there in bootleg world for years. And it'd be great to actually hear some of this stuff the way the band had originally intended it and recorded it.
Yeah, Tommy Thayer was saying at the New Jersey Kids Expo that there'll be a deluxe edition next year for Love Gun with bonus material, probably having some live material for that album or that tour, like Love Gun tour.
Well, if it's material that has been previously unreleased, that's a very exciting thing. If it's just an audio version of some of the concerts that have been floating out there for years, I'm not too excited.
Well, can we ask you one question about that Love Gun? Do you know anything about the Eddie Van Halen or the Van Halen brothers doing the demo or played a couple of songs on the Love Gun album?
I was honored to have been a guest at Gene's house one time when we first started working together, and he had played me bits and pieces of Love Gun songs that he had told me at the time the Van Halen brothers had contributed to, and I thought that was very exciting news. But that was back in 1994, and I know the box set came out in 2002-ish. And so, at least one of those songs was on there, if I remember correctly. But it would be if I remember correctly, I could be totally wrong, but that's the one thing. As you get to be an old man like me, you start to forget stuff.
I think from what I heard, I think they wanted to put it on or something, but because of the legalities, probably with Warner Brothers at the time, which Van Halen were with. They couldn't be on or something? That Warner Brothers didn't want them on?
Well, who knows what the legal or the political reasons were, but what's exciting about this kind of stuff is that if Kiss does move into a direction where a lot of the archive stuff that fans haven't heard before finally starts coming out, that's very exciting. I mean, one other thing that I had heard with my own 2 ears was a very early recording of the Daisy, which turned out to be a cassette that was included in Kiss's very first press kit, which is finally talked about in the book Nothing to Lose. But Gene had played that for me in his guest house, way back in '94, and I was just so delighted that they were actually able to archive themselves that early in the game, and I had thought that was going to be on the Monster box set that came out in 2002, or at least one or two tracks. But so there's stuff out there. It's just a matter of when they decide to release it.
Yeah, because they just also released, I think, on vinyl. It's something live at the Beacon Theatre from about 75 on vinyl. I remember seeing that online, that you could order. It's an official Kiss release apparently, but I think they're only doing a limited run of them, I believe.
Oh wow! I mean, I'm personally a big fan of the band's inception through 1975, 76. So anytime I hear anything from that era coming out, either audio or video, I'm very excited about stuff like that. I always like when they find these new, new gems. It's always exciting.
Yeah. The thing I like to see is that even though they brought it out on the Kissology, the first official performance at the commentary, put it on the CD.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I remember there were plans a few years back. There was some talk of doing a specialized box set that was just going to be some of the earliest shows boxed with, with some bonus materials. And then I think that was going to be a fan club exclusive or something, and then that didn't happen. But there was a lot of talk about it because in my Kiss collection, I have a photo of the Daisy in Amityville, and they had talked to me about contributing that to a package. And at the time I was excited, but then it didn't happen. But then there's with the new book Nothing to Lose that came out, I said to myself, well, there's got to be a picture of the Daisy in this, and there wasn't a picture of the Daisy. It was a picture of the drugstore before it became the Daisy. I said, wow. Maybe one day we'll see the Daisy.
Especially, especially Nothing to Lose when they were closing a song for Moby Blues. They never actually recorded the song, but they used to close the song with Paul. Right? It was a Moby Blues song that they closed the shows down in the early days. This was before they got the record contract. And going back to Warner Brothers, David, Casablanca was initially signed under Warner Brothers when it went on before the record came out, the debut album. They were actually under when Neil Bogart changed his record label into Casablanca. He went to Warner Brothers, and that was under the Warner Brothers banner at one stage.
The very first Kiss album, if you have the printing before Kissing Time is added to it, it says distributed by Warner Brothers Records. But what's even cooler is if you have the 8-track tape of the very first release of the first Kiss album, it actually has the Warner Brothers logo on the index, which is for the Kiss connoisseurs a pretty neat thing.
Yeah, we'll have to get a copy of that.
Yeah.
I was very lucky to pick a copy up probably about 15 years ago in a used record store, and the only other person I know that had a copy of the same tape was Lydia Chris, but I believe she had sold her entire collection through auction. So there's some lucky Kiss fan out there that has the first pressings of all the tapes and 8-tracks and vinyl. And that's a very primo collection.
It is. And you can probably buy a house with that collection if you want to resell it later on.
And believe it or not, there are Kiss fans that would put their house up for sale to have a collection like that.
Yeah. So, Robert, how can the Kiss fan get hold of you if they want to find out a little bit more about you? How will they get hold of you?
I have a Facebook page for Rebuilding Robert. So if you go to rebuildingrobert.com, it logs on to my Facebook page, and you can either like it or send me a message, and I will certainly get back to you.
Yeah. And any other questions you'd like to ask David before we wrap this show up?
You were talking to us before we started the show. You wanted to speak about somebody that recently passed away?
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to, today at New York Comic Con, I've been so focused on the projects I'm working on. I found out for the first time today that a colleague of mine, Hans Paulson, who owned KissForSale.com, had passed away in April. And he was such a great guy. It was great to know, and one of the friendliest, funnest people I had worked with and had known in the KISS convention community. And it was very, very heartbreaking to hear of his untimely passing. He and I think we're only a year or so apart, and he has a wife and kids, and my heart just goes out to them. And he was such a special part of the KISS retail community, and he'll be missed. He'll be missed. I just wanted to give my thoughts to him. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and also, David, we have a special request to pass our condolences on to the family of Tom Hale, who was a mighty KISS soldier and passed away a couple of weeks ago now.
Counts was a really nice guy and a big soldier in the KISS Army. So, fails you, Tom, and hope you're happy up there in heaven, mate.
Yep. And just want to say this, David, we want to give the fans the opportunity to create a 30-second video promo for us. If you're into that type of design, use a Krazy Knights type of theme, and a crossover between Krazy Knights and Revenge. Do like a bit of a mix and match, and be Australian as well. You can put a bit of Australia technology in it. If you'd like to do a promo for us, we can add the voiceovers later on, but that's something the fans can decide to do. Also, T-shirts. We made a design up. They are going to print. We're only going to do a small number first, so you guys can actually see what it looks like. Then you can put the order in. Once we get that out, we'll let the fans know how to order them and how to pay for them. And all the money is not going into our pocket, going into the production for this podcast. We got to buy a monthly fee for Skype. We got to buy a monthly fee for our website and all that type of stuff. So all the money that gets raised for the T-shirt goes back into the podcast production side of it. Also, David, I believe there's a big announcement that came out early this week, and KISS could be coming back to Australia next year.
An article in Geelong Advertiser that I believe the Geelong to cancel, and I think the Geelong Football Club isn't it, Jamie? Yeah.
Yeah, they're calling.
They're trying to get KISS to be the first band to play at Simmons Stadium in Geelong.
And all you bloody Geelong supporters can go and get nice. I'm only joking.
Be the first band to play there since the renovations at the ground with the lights and all that. So they want to start having rock concerts there now, and they want KISS to be the first band to play there. So let's hope it happens.
Yeah, and just to say this, nothing's confirmed yet. When it's confirmed, go to it'll be on kissonline.com. Also, fans, go to our Krazy Knights Facebook page. You'll see David and myself and our producer for this podcast. We're all there. Ask us a question. We'll give you an answer. We'll love some interaction happening there. Also, go to our Facebook, not just our Facebook, but you can go to our Facebook private page if they want to ask us personal questions. Go to our YouTube channel, Krazy Knights 1. All our episodes are up there. Leave us a comment. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Go to our Twitter page at Krazy Knights 1 at Twitter. We'll just post some photos and some episodes up there. Once it gets loaded, it goes up to Twitter as well, so you can go to Twitter. Podbean as well, Krazy Knights at podbean.com. We're doing a weekly blog now up there now, Dave. So every episode that we do, we're going to write a blog and put some photos and things like that. So this one as well, there'll be a blog up on there. So it's your turn to write the blog this week, Dave. You can send me the email, we'll put it up there. And go to Podfeed.net, you'll see it's on the directory, and also Spreaker, we'll put up on Spreaker as well. And also, all the other things that Robert just mentioned in his podcast, go and check them out. it's great just to explore different avenues of not just Kiss in general, but Comic-Con, like Robert did that in New York today and also tomorrow in New York, and all these other great things.
And
go and check it out. So, rebuildingrobert.com.
I was going to say, make sure you look out for Robert's new reality series when it comes out. Hopefully, we'll get to see it here in Australia. But just look out for it, people.
And gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on the show. I deeply appreciate it.
No, that's all right, Robert.
And we want to say thank you for joining us at the Knights of the Round Table, Robert. You're more than welcome to come back any other time for new breaking news or anything else to talk about comic books. I've just picked up a new comic book on Friday myself, the solo album. I've got the Paul now. I'm going to get the other two, and
very cool.
It's going to be looking good. I'm trying to find the Howard the Duck one. I found one.
Howard the Duck, number 12 or number 13?
Awesome. And David, when I do get this Marvel comic book, you're going to have a look at it too.
Very cool.
So, yeah. All right, guys, join us on next week on Krazy Knights, the Australian Kiss podcast, and you never know, all the great surprises we come.
Yep.
Oh, before we go, David, I just want to say this. We have got an official email back as well. The last week of this month, we have got another special guest. We're not going to blurt it out. We've got to keep this one under wraps. So there'll be a big special guest for the last week of this month.
Yep.
So
definitely,
keep it under wraps. All right, guys. We've got to keep cruising. Robert, it's been an absolute pleasure. And David, it's been an awesome day talking to you.
Guys.
You too, Rob.
All right, take care.
You too. All right, guys.
All right.
Catch you next week. Welcome to another episode of Krazy Knights, the Australian Kiss podcast. I'm one of your Krazy Knights co-hosts, Jamie McNichol, and it's a beautiful day here on a Sunday. Saturday was yesterday, so Sunday afternoon. It's a great, warm weather, springtime. I've got hay fever, and but no, joining me as always is my other co-host, David Fowler. How you going, David?
Yeah, good, thanks, Jamie. It's a great day here today, actually.
Yeah, it's been absolutely beautiful weather, consistent now, and the winter season has gone. Yep. I've got hay fever, as I always do when the springtime comes around. All the new flowers and grass growing and that. So, yeah, you sound like a chipmunk, so it's all good. But no, David, I thought we'd just get straight into the house chores for Krazy Knights.
Yep, for sure.
We want to say thank you to everyone that has listened to our episodes. The last 4 episodes that we've done has averaged 500 views, and it's just been awesome since we first started. We were lucky to get 100 views when we first started, but this is week 17, and we're 15 numbers off 500 likes on our Facebook page. That's Krazy Knights, the Australian Kiss podcast. We're almost hitting 500. We want to do a milestone. If we can hit that by the end of the month, the 500, that lucky person will get a special gift from both David and I for Krazy Knights, and we want to say thank you to all the people that have supported us since we first started, and commenting, liked us, even sharing their inside stories as well. We had been requested on our Facebook page, David, yesterday to do an episode, and I think you saw that on our board. We are going to do a live broadcast probably later this month. Well, I'm trying things out with that. I'm just trying to get some bit of background knowledge of that. It's a new thing that just came up. So we are going to try it out, and we are going to go live. So we are going to let the fans know what time they need to be up in America, England, overseas as well, and also the time difference here in Australia due to our daylight savings. So, yeah, David, that's another thing that we're going to be doing. Do a live episode now and again using that.
Yeah, that'll be good.
That'll be good. So, yeah, I think we get all those out of the way at the start, and, you know, thank everyone that jumped on board, and it's awesome. But, David, I think it's time to do a drum roll and introduce this awesome guest. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned should Kiss do a remastered set again and continue on, probably up to Monster. You were saying, David, to go up to Psycho Circus.
I did, yeah.
So I dug deep, and I said, okay, why don't we actually talk to the guy that actually brought the remastered edition set out in the 90s.
Around about 98?
Yeah, 98, 97, 98, around there. And I said, why don't we go down a little bit deeper and let's go into the catalogue a bit of people that work with Kiss or done something for Kiss. And I said, why don't we get Robert B. Conte to join us, David? And we do have this awesome person all the way from New York, America. He's just done a Comic-Con convention as we speak. And we want to welcome Robert to join the Krazy Knights at the round table. How you going, Robert?
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Good,
thanks. Yourself?
Good. Well, thank you for inviting me to be on the show, and I'm quite flattered, and, I'm here to answer all of your questions.
Yeah, well, like I said, Robert, it's just a pleasure to having you join us, and also David's here is also flattered as well.
Yep.
I mean, who would have thought that post?
We'll do that at a later stage,
Yep, we'll do that. So we want to thank that person just now for that great request that we want to do. Also, go over to our YouTube channel. We've got 46 subscribers now, David. Over 300-something views since we first started with all the episodes. That's another great rally that's going there too. They're jumping on board. They're liking what we do.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone who's liking our page and watching all the episodes and getting something out of it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for everyone of that. And also, I'd like to mention our website, Podbean, at Krazy Knights at Podbean. Please go there. We are going to put all the other episodes up. It's just that we hit our monthly data limit, so we're going to pay out another bill. That's got to put our other 500 or so megabytes we can put up, so we're going to do that and put the other episodes up. I have put a bit of a throwback Thursday, David. I put up an earlier episode on our Facebook wall, so fans that haven't seen our earlier episodes, we can just drag them out of our catalogue off YouTube and put them on our wall. So I started that this week, so anyone wants to see our early episodes, please, it's going to be up there on our wall, including our weekly episodes. So you get two, basically. So that's another new things that we're going to be starting. Also, we've got two new things that we have lined up. We want to thank podnet.com, the podcast directory, for picking us up last week. That's going to be distributed around Australia and also overseas. We've got 3 or 4 episodes currently up there, plus a couple of older episodes. Please go to that. Look us up at Krazy Knights. You'll see us in the directory, and just like us, and also share it with your friends. Also, Spreaker.com has picked us up as well. David here 3 months ago is going to be talking to one of the guys that got together with Kiss and said, let's do a remastered set.
That's right.
And here we are, and we're just flattered as well. And this all goes back to the Kiss fans. But before we get into that topic of the remastered, I just want to say, how did the Comic-Con convention go for you today at New York?
Well, this weekend, the show started on this past Thursday, and it's going through tomorrow. And I've been in the comic book business in one aspect or another for almost 28 years. And this weekend, I'm promoting a reality show I'm working on called Rebuilding Robert, which is a show essentially about myself going through the trials and tribulations of experiencing, high highs and low lows throughout, an average person's life. It's amazing to have had such great experiences as working with, celebrities such as Kiss, but I've also been through a lot of, terrible experiences as well. And it's interesting to see what motivates a person to get themselves out of any sort of funk, whether it be financial funk or physical, emotional. There's things that drive me to try to do better in my life, and I've been very blessed with a lot of the experiences I've had. But I want more. I'm hungry, you see. So, never take no for an answer. Perseverance is a very powerful tool, my friends. So,
definitely.
We were very lucky. We passed out, a couple of hundred of promotional T-shirts this weekend. We have a website already called rebuildingrobert.com. And for any Kiss fan that clicks on that and likes it, you're going to get a really nice special surprise when it's ready. And, we'll see. This time next year, we'll be talking about the show, hopefully.
Yeah,
definitely.
And we have Comic Con down here in Australia. We had one early this year. We had William Shatner from Star Trek. We had Richard Dean Anderson. We had all those type of people, the sci-fi comic book stuff. They all come to Australia now and again. You're more than welcome to come down for that, Robert, if you want to do it. You're more than welcome.
I tell you, I love the idea of being able to travel for a comic convention. For many years, San Diego Comic-Con was considered like the mecca of comic book shows in the country. But I have to tell you, this New York Comic-Con just keeps getting larger and larger. And I'm dying to see what the other, large conventions are throughout the world. So you know what? I may take you up on that offer. Thank you.
No worries.
I believe Ace and Richie Scarlett were there as well. I've heard.
Oh, nice.
I just read that something that they were going to make an appearance at Comic-Con or something to do some signing or something. But
yeah, I think that was a horror one.
Oh,
I don't know if
sorry.
I don't think. Yeah, that was a horror one. Okay. I don't think it was actually a comic one. That was a horror one.
Oh, right. Yep.
That's the same as Peter Criss. He's doing another monster type of Comic-Con.
Yep.
Two different things. We know, David, you and I know exactly what's going down in between Ace and Peter.
Yep.
That just won't be in the same room together. They had a massive fallout early this year, but that's not for us. It's only from what the sources have told us. And all credit for Ace and Peter. If it wasn't for them two, Kiss wouldn't be here. But unfortunately, they chose not to do certain things. They're entitled to do that. So if they want to sign at different conventions, let them do that.
Yep.
They make them money. Yeah. They do that. But let's focus on the positive, shall we?
Exactly.
Back in 98, well, not 98, Robert, but before that, you were approached by Kiss about the Remastered edition. I'd like to ask you, how did all that came for you firsthand before they even announced it to yourself?
Well, it's interesting. I wouldn't say that the band approached me about the remasters. I would say I was pretty much begging them to let me do the remaster. And every opportunity I possibly could. What had happened